Dr. Stancilous Matindike, who specialized in resolving Ngozi within the context of Shona metaphysics. This is the study of, you know physics. That is what you can perceive with your senses. Metaphysics, you are going beyond what you see, or what you hear, or what you feel. As, for example, when we are talking about Ngozi, we are not talking about what has happened beyond what you saw, or what you did. For example, munhu akunzi akusvikirwa manje akukutaridza zvakaitika kare zvamanga musingazivi kana kuti zvamaingoita manzwira-nzwira, in terms of what happens when you make a mistake, or when you murder somebody in particular, or when you don't treat your mother properly while she is alive, or when you do what they call makuna-kuna, that is having sex with a close relative and so forth. According to the law of the country, you may be put into jail, but according to the Shona beliefs, you will not be exempted from being assessed within the context of the families involved, using the powers of the spirits whom you would, the spirits of the people whom you would have offended. So, unfortunately, at the moment, there is controversy over the definition of Ngozi, because the early writers of Ngozi were religious people and medical people, like Dr. Gelfand, who understood Ngozi, or who defined Ngozi as a vengeful spirit or an angry spirit. And even the sociologists like Dr. Budilon has maintained that's an angry spirit. If you read some of his books, he will tell you that Ngozi attacks suddenly, which according to the Shona is not true. What is true is that the Shona, when you offend a Shona through murder or failure to pay lobola and things like that, they expect you to discuss, negotiate over the issue and agree on what has to be done in terms of reparation or payment. But if you don't do that, by the time the Ngozi begins to show, the crime is manifested through what some people may say strange behavior and that sort of thing, it sounds sudden, but to the people who actually committed the crime, because Ngozi, according to me, is a crime against the bloodline. That is, if I make such a mistake, it's the Matindike family who are going to be responsible for it. And it may not strike me to begin with. It will start with what the human rights people would say, why attack the innocent? Which means the members of the family or the bloodline who have no idea about what happened. That is done deliberately in order to attract attention, in order to be attended to, because the actual person or the perpetrator did not actually accept the responsibility, or he refused to acknowledge that he did whatever he did, and therefore it is now happening or manifesting itself in a manner which attracts the attention of as many people within the bloodline as possible, to show that it is real. Because if it would be that person who actually committed the crime, people may not take it seriously. But if the spirit of the person who was murdered, for example, or who was ill-treated, is speaking through a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old, the first thing you question is, how does this child know so much about the event? And even at that age, the confidence with which the person manifesting will be showing is surprising, and therefore everybody will be interested to know what has actually happened. So This happens even to people who may, according to the law of the land, people are incarcerated, they are put into jail. But even in jail, we have had cases where people fail to sleep. They tell you we are being beaten while in jail. We don't know who is beating us. Or the person is just behaving in a manner which the prison guards cannot understand. And all that will be an indication that this is beyond what you can see, what you can hear. It's something which you need to attend to carefully, as the Spirit speaks through whoever He has chosen to speak through as through possession. You will have to take that seriously. And those who know the importance of this phenomenon, it's an African phenomenon which is being denied within the Western world, but for us, or for me rather, it's quite real. If you follow what the Spirit would be saying and try to attend to it as said, you will find that the situation will be different. And therefore it is important to know that certain behaviors, although there is already law to cover them, the law will not have the impact. You're actually double punishing the offender or the perpetrator. The person will serve as many years as you want, but depending on the nature of the offense as seen within the context of Ngozi, the person may even die in jail. We have had such situations where somebody dies in jail, but it doesn't exonerate the bloodline. The living members of the bloodline will still have to attend to the issue to the extent that it can go to even fourth generation. You know, not so long ago, the Herald published a case of somebody who was not paid his due in South Africa in 1947. And only recently, in the 2000s and something, about 4 or 5 years ago, it appeared in the Herald that they were looking, the family which was responsible for that in South Africa was looking for the family of that individual who was coming from Chipinge. They tried to advertise, and what was also interesting in that case is that the family was now being led by a senior policeman in South Africa, who had to accept that they had to deal with Ngozi. They had done everything which they could to resolve the issue at family level, but it didn't seem to work out. So latest writers have tried to classify the type of Ngozi. The murder has been called archetypical Ngozi. The one when you don't pay lobola and the person dies before and then manifests for payment, it's marital Ngozi. If you kill somebody because he's asking for his salary, that becomes transactional Ngozi. And then we have the political Ngozi. I think the well-known one is what Nguyani Anda say, kuti mafupa anga achafuka. That's Chimurenga 1. You also know from time to time when the people are tried at the chief's courts, the chief says ng'ombe natu, zokukanganisa vurangu. That is within the context of Ngozi, because that one is more serious, because it doesn't affect just that one family, it affects the whole clan, if you like, or the whole area under the jurisdiction of the chief. So he says you pay this, and then they use the animals in the way prescribed by their ancestors, whether they are going to be owned by the chief or one of them will have to be killed, slaughtered for people to celebrate over the issue, and over the resolution of the issue is something else. But for the Shona speaking people, they are very clear. You should avoid to kill somebody. When you marry, you must make sure you pay for the lobola. And some people are saying it's too much. People are charging so much. Well, my experience is that anybody who is unable to pay lobola is unable to look after his family. You may quote me at a later stage. This is a study I'm giving to everybody. Look at your relatives who are unable to pay lobola. Are they able to look after their children? Why? Because they have not learned to serve before they create a family. Lobola forces you to serve, and once you have developed your ways of serving, it means even when you have got children, wife, and so on, you are able to do so. And this is why lobola, polygamy was always associated with very successful farmers. It is not for everybody, but you see somebody in Form 6 impregnating 2-3 girls. Are you rich? And he says, I can't pay for them because I don't have anything. You had nothing in the first place. You were not even supposed to do that. The point, according to the Shona thinking, if you kill somebody, unofanira kubvuma kuti ndauraya. Unofanira kukumbira ruregerero kuhama dzemunhu kuti wauraya. Unofanira kuzvipira kuti musangane vakutaurire kuti vanoda chipa kuuraya kwawaita hama yavo.